Okay, hopefully I can do this. I have a cold or an illness that's making me cough a lot, and I've tried this several times and I've coughed a lot. So hopefully I can do it without coughing. Anyway, we're going to talk about scenes and actions. We've done this before, but that video wasn't as good as I wanted, and also things have changed, so we have to go through how things have changed slightly. So this will be for the version 2 onwards. So version 1 that's on the website, build 1, release 1 will not work the same as this. So I've changed a fair bit. Anyway, let's do a few things first. Grab some sprites, an apple, and a bat, and go to the stage and choose some backgrounds. There's basketball field and there's basketball court. Here's my default layout. If you want to change the background of the default layout, it's currently down here. Soon it will magically appear over here, but that will be for build 3. But anyway, we're going to do here, we're going to click on that, and now we have our basic layout. We have our 2 objects, which is a bat and an apple. And the problem with all of this is that most apps have multiple sort of layouts for different parts of your app or your game. So you might have the title screen, you might have the level 1, level 2, end game, congratulations screen, high score screen, you know, all the kind of different things you're going to have in your app. So what you can do is, in Glitter, you can create scenes. So if you click on scene list, and then you can go new scene. And this will be scene 0. If I click on scene 0, if I go here, you can see that I have a very small little window down here. We have a name. We're going to call this first scene. The name doesn't really matter. What matters is the class name, which is the second thing. So if you click on the little pencil, I would call that first, and I'm going to say that it should have a capital F, a capital letter at the front. So it's not a variable technically. I'm going to say it's more like a class. Doesn't really matter too much, I don't think, but for how I would like things to work, that's what you're going to do. Capital for letter for this. Now, we have an empty scene with just a background. Now we can change the background. So we can change the background to basketball court. So scene 1 has a basketball court as the background, but we want to add some sprites. So there are three ways to add sprites. The first way is the easiest, which is if you look at the sprite list, it has to be from the sprite list. You drag the thing you want and you stick it where you want, and you can throw in a bat. And the trick with this is that you can throw in more than one of the same sprite. So I can have 2 sprites, 2 apples and a bat. And this is not the same as the default layout. The default layout looks like that. My scene looks like this. I'm going to move the bat around so it's more obvious that they're different. And the second way of adding sprites to your scene, you can just drag them. No. We're going to do a bat. We're going to drag the bat into this area here, and then suddenly the bat will appear, and the bat will appear at the location that it is in the default layout, just for interest's sake. And the third way of adding things in, which I'm not going to do because I've got enough things as it is to click on add and then choose which one you want to add, and then you're done. Okay, so that's the basics. So now you have layouts, and we're going to come down to the rest of the bits and pieces later on. But the first thing we're going to do is, well, what do you use this for? How do you interact with this in your code? Well, the first thing you can do that's non-code. Actually, we won't do that. We'll come down to our scripts, and we will say flag. So this is a stage script, and we're going to wait time 1 second, and then we're going to go to our first scene. So we're going to go to first. So there we go. So my point here is that the default layout looks like this. So we'll compile it and run it. And after 1 second, it changed and we moved to the scene. So everything's being laid out. There are now 2 bats and there are 2 apples, and they're no longer the default scene. But So the first way of doing things with scenes is using the goTo command. Goto and then the class name of the scene. So we can do that, but you probably just want to go click on the app project where it says start scene. So click on your project bit at the very top of the project tree, and then you can choose first scene. And now when I compile it, it just goes straight into the first scene. So nicely done. So now we're going to go down to scene list, and then we're going to go new scene. And now we're going to have a second scene. And we're going to call this second scene, just to be weird, second scene. And then we're going to give it a class name of second. So scenes have a weird thing because they are global variables in a way, whereas things like markers and costumes are not. They're referenced via an independent, like they're referenced via marks, or they're referenced via costumes, I think, which is something that may change at some point later on. So click here. It doesn't automatically update. That's not my fault. It's just that Java, it's harder to get that to do. First cough, that's all right. Now, same thing, we're going to click add, and we're going to add bat. So now we have a bat in this scene. And so now we have two scenes. And the first scene is this one, and this is what we go to the first time. Now that's the sort of basics of scenes. So you can use goTo second to go to the second scene, or you could use, so down here in my apples, I could go, clicked, go to second. Now when I run it, if I click on an apple, ta-da, it's gone to the second scene, just like that, like magic. So that's one way of doing it. But the problem with that is that every single apple does the same thing. So that's not useful so much. My advice is to try and avoid doing these things directly within the code. But the thing that you shouldn't be doing, and it's the thing we haven't talked about, is we have another option, which is another way of using scripts, using scenes within scripts. So we can go start, we can go second, and then I will repeat 10 times, turn right 36 degrees. Alright, so this says when you start in scene second, repeat 10 times, turn. So the reason that this is not like scenes, well, one reason is that it looks a bit clunky and you use them in a slightly different way than what you do with other things. So anyway, we'll try this. And now if we start, well, we have to be able to get, do we still have our script? Yeah, we do. So this one's going to, when we start in second. So now we have two bats, and these bats are not spinning because this is the first scene. But if we click on the apple, we will go to the second scene. And our bat did a quick spin. So that was pretty cool. Now my advice is only use the start blocks inside stages. Don't use them inside sprites because you're not entirely sure what might happen. And the thing is, like, I'm pretty sure actually it is consistent behavior. But what I'm worried about is, like, so if you do this, if I go here and I say first, we do it, both those bats do actually spin. So if you don't believe me, I can run it again and they go for a spin. Okay, so but sometimes they might not do that, but I'm going to say that they will. That's the desired behavior. But the thing is that in these scenes, one of these bats is a real sprite, is the original sprite, and one of these bats is a clone of the sprite. So when you go to a scene, it does a whole bunch of stuff in the background to create clones, shift them into the right position, and so on. So the thing is that if you do this script here, this script might not actually run inside the clones. It will run in the original, but not always the clones. Now, as far as I know, actually it does do this, but I'm just worried about at some point it might become too complicated. So yeah, use this with caution. Use it fine if there's only one instance of that thing within the scene. That won't be a problem. And I don't think it'll be a problem anyhow, but I'm just going to say that. Anyway, now the next thing, of course, is that there are better ways of doing this. Well, there are other ways of doing this. And that's when you have these actions. Well, another way of using things in scenes. Now, we don't have any actions because you have to, at the moment, because this is a proof of concept, you have to actually write the actions in here. So actions are kind of complicated. You have to go action, spin, and I'm going to go spin around int times equals 2. Alright, that's probably good enough. Alright. So it's a bit like a block, except you have a few extra things. You can put in these little strings, which you may actually be able to do in blocks. I don't know. I can't remember. But you have these strings. This is just to make things look pretty. But this format will probably change or become more advanced later on because I want to be able to reference icons and stuff like that too. And it takes one parameter, which is times, and the default value is 2. And all we're going to do is we're going to go repeat 36 times turn left Boolean maybe leave that for now. I was going to make it so you could turn left or right. Actually, we will. We'll see how it looks. It might look a bit terrible. Is turn left. If is turn left. Left 10 degrees. Else turn right 10 degrees. And repeat times. So the inner loop will spin around wait time, and after each spin we'll wait half a second just to make it look like we're actually spinning around more than once. So the idea here is, so this action is spin around, it takes time, and if it's Boolean, I'm just going to give up, but I'm going to keep making this video. Wait time. Well, we just compile. We click compile here, or we can go Control F12. So up here, you have to compile the actions separately. It will compile them when you do a normal compile though. But this is just a check. So if I made a mistake, and then I went like that, it will tell me that there's a failure. I have to click on the compile button today to see the actual error. So there's a syntax error. And line 1. Now, once we've compiled these things, so we'll compile again. We've got a nice compile. If we go down to our scenes and we click on Apple, we can add an event. So there's events, and then they have actions. So the events are built in. There's the scene starts or it's clicked. So this apple, we're going to do it when the scene starts. And then we're going to add an action, and we can change this. So we can say spins around times, and then modify these things by putting in the strings and things. But anyway, we'll do this, and we're going to turn left, and we're going to do the same thing for our scene start, update, add actions, and we're going to turn left, so that should look kind of fancy, and we're going to make that one do it 3 times. So the default is 2 because that's what the script says. And then over here, we're going to add this one in, and the action is going to be, when we click on it, see, we're going to add an action, we're going to spin around. One time, and right. Alright, and then we're going to add another action. So just one little thing. So we have an event. Now you can have multiple events per object, but an event can have multiple actions. Now the actions do not happen at the same time. They happen one after each other. So I'm going to add in another action, and this action is the same thing. But I'm going to make this action turn 1, but this time I'm going to turn right. So I'm not turning left, I'm turning right. Alright, so that's my first scene. So let's just see if it works. So, what happened? Why did that one do something? Let's just try that again. Oh, because I've gone and added in that silly code, right. So we'll just get rid of this code. So all the bats are doing this at the same time. So we don't want them to do that because it's getting confusing. Alright, and then we're going to compile it. So now our little bat isn't spinning around. So that bat does it 3 times, that thing did it twice. Let's just check that they're going the right way. Yeah, so you can see they're turning in opposite directions. And then I'm going to click on this bat, and it's going to do the action. Woo! And then back again the other way. So that's the basics of this. Now we have a few other options we have with actions. One very useful action, so at some point I will start to write built-in actions. Once you have local variables, actions will become much more powerful. We can go action, go scene, right, go scene, target. So this is like a very useful built-in thing. And then we can just go to target. We can print. Off we go. Alright. So that compiles. So now we've got that option. Now that we've compiled it, we can go down to our scene. So I think this is the one that spins, so I don't want that bat to spin. Don't forget you can give bats better names by changing their values here. So they're called bat1 and bat2, but they could be called different names. They don't have to be called the same names as the original. So we'll call this the go scene 2 bat. Alright, and that's quite fun. So now, oh, this is the wrong bat. This is not the go scene. This is the spin around bat. Spin round bat. So it's the other bat that's not doing anything. So this isn't. Oh, no, they all have actions. Well, okay. We'll just get rid of this. We'll just kill that. All right. So we'll add an event down here, and we're going to say when clicked. I'm going to change the name again. This is the go scene 2 go scene 2 bat. Alright, this name has nothing except the only purpose of this at the moment is to describe things. So there will be a variable at some point when things get more complicated. Anyway, so we're going to say when clicked, and we're going to add an action. Now there are 2 actions. So also at some point, so these are going to have nice little icons, and it's all going to look like a nice proper game development thing. So the idea is that you'll be able to basically make a no-code game making tool by writing all the background code and the actions and other frameworks that will go with it. So we're going to go scene to target, and then we have now when we say go scene, this is the target, we're going to choose which scene we want to go to. So there'll be a drop down menu, you can click second scene, and then you've done it. So this is our go to the next scene button. So now if I compile it, that doesn't do anything because I stopped that bat from spinning. But now, if I do that, and then that one bat goes there. But if I click on this bat, it goes to the second scene, and it says off we go, because that's what the compiler said. So the action set. So that is, I think, most of everything. So the valid types for actions are like the normal ones, so integers, strings. Oh, there's one last thing, which is strings. Action, print stuff, string stuff. Alright, print, I am printing stuff. Alright, so I've made this action, and this compiles. Now, one last little thing. We're going to quickly go to scene number 2. We're going to pick up our bat, and we're going to add an event. And we're going to say when the scene starts. But this action is going to be print stuff. And so the only thing here is that normally most of these things take an expression. So if I was to go back to my apple, I can just as easily say 2 plus 25, 45. And that's fine, that will compile because it's an expression. And in fact, if there's a variable within the sprite called x, I could do that. Or I could say sprite x. So I could actually use code in here because this is an integer value. Strings are a bit complicated because I kind of want to just say hello, how are you? Right, but that's not an expression. That's not a valid piece of code. You'd have to put the quote marks around it, which is kind of annoying. So by default, this is a literal value. This is what's going to be passed in as a string. If you want to actually do an expression, then you have to go expression, and then you can say join cat, right? Something like that, something silly. We'll just see if that actually works. It does work. So now if I click on the bat that goes to the next scene, it will say, I am printing hello, how are you, cat. Okay, so but if you just want to type in text, hello world, make sure that's not clicked, otherwise you'll get an error. Now if you do get an error, you get an kind of incomprehensible message here. If you get out of there, you'll see it's over here. And if I look at my other objects, but then I click on the error message, it will take me to the hello world and it will be printed red. So I have to fix that. It will change back to black once you compile it properly. So if I compile, get out of there, it is now black because it's correct. Okay, so that is the errors. I think that is all there is. I feel like I missed one thing. Oh yeah, so the valid types that you can have in an action currently are just primitives like strings, ints, doubles, floats, whatever, booleans. Booleans will have a drop down menu for true or false. And also you can ask for scenes. So there's a type of variable called that is a type scene. And that will give you a reference to a scene. Later on, you'll be able to say sprite. You'll be able to say sprite x. You'll be able to say var, probably var ref y, which will be a reference to a variable somewhere that you can change. And you'll probably be able to specify what kind of sprite. So it may be, when this gets more complicated, you'll be able to say sprites that have certain kind of attributes. So they must have certain variables that you can use. So you can restrict things. So sorry for the coughing, but later on you'll be able to have like actions and behaviors that are like vehicle controllers or player controllers, and you'll be able to have bullet sprites and all of these kind of things. So, but at the moment you can't. So there is one thing. If you click on a sprite like Apple, there's data here, and you can add a variable moo, move type is a number. You can choose different things and give it initial values. If you do that, you have. So this is a graphical way of declaring variables. The reason for this is that later on these will be what show up when you ask for a variable, and you can drag and drop those onto your action. But as you can tell, I can't talk anymore, so we will leave it at that. I am sure there are other things that I should have mentioned. Thanks for watching, and I will put this script, I will put this this project up on the webpage with the video. So thanks for watching, and bye.